to everybody that these meetings are now recorded. So we'll get underway. We have apologies. I'm guessing it's Councillor Carey. Moved by Mayor Tracy. I'll second that. All those in favour say aye. Against, no carried. Public forum, have we been noted that anybody's here for that public forum? No. That any items that are not on the agenda? Any declaration of conflicts of interest in relating to this meeting's items of business? Nope. So we move straight on to the confirmation of minutes, which are there in your agenda, and I'm happy to move those. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Peter? Does anybody have any comments yet? Otherwise, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Against, no carried. So we're basically straight on to the report. Stephen? Thanks very much again for an update. I think this is still a really good option of going through the things so that everybody's brought up to date. So welcome to the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. The first report is the Risk and Assurance Management Report, and if I can take it as read for any questions that anyone has. Just a couple of things I want to highlight in sections. Shall I just go through, or shall I check if there's any questions first? I've got a couple of comments for section 6 on the audit reports.
I think that's a good focus.
Just to let you know that we've that the audit report is still for the June 2021. We're still waiting on the June 2022 management report, so that I can then include those. So in this quarterly update, we've been able to close out one more audit comment, number 130 on page 12. That's good to get that done. And just on page, also on page 12 and on page 13, so the Waka Kotahi audit, investment audit from 2022, that's now complete, and all management actions have been completed on that, and that's closed out. And there's also Waka Kotahi investment audit on our response for Cyclone Gabrielle. There was one comment for that, which has been completed. And that report is also being made to Infrastructure, Climate Change and Emergency Management Committee. So I've included it in here for completeness. So that's the audit reports that I have there. I also just wanted to apologise. There should also be included the Tararua Alliance audit management comments. So I'll ensure that they're in next time so that you can see the tracking of management's response to those. Any questions on the audit reports?
It's fraud. It's
that's the next one.
Oh, sorry, you're not.
Item 7.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Councillor Scott?
Chair Kevin, and through you, just having a look at just a couple of questions. 149 on page 10, which is the expenditure approval. Just noting that that hasn't moved since the last meeting. I know it's just down as a beneficial one, but implementing the new system for one-up approvals, just wondering if any progress is being made or what the timelines are looking like.
Through you, Chair, we have implemented electronic purchase order system called ESCA that was almost coming to 2 years right now. But what we're trying to do in implementation of the ESCA is do a phase approach, meaning the initial approach is have the approval in electronic form. So that has improved the control process. But what we're now going to do is what we call a one-up approval process within the system as well. So that is what the auditors are trying to implement as a better control, meaning a one-up approval. So currently what we have as an example would be that if I got delegation of $10,000 to procure, I can raise a purchase order for 5,000. I can raise it and I can approve it and I can good receipt it because it's within my delegation. But what the auditors are saying that for good practice, you got to have a separation of duty, meaning that if I raise the PO and I've approved it, somebody else needs to make sure that they can do a good receipt. So they want two person to be part of a process. So that's what they call segregation duty. So that's what they're trying to implement as part of this process, which we will look to as part of phase 2 to implement that, because we're quite conscious that it does include what you call an administration process, because it requires a second person to be part of that entire process. But we understand where the auditors are coming from regards to control environment. So we want to make sure that the system is efficient, where it doesn't slow down the process when we include an additional step.
Thank you, Chair. Kevin, through you to Steve. It's 147, so just the next one on that list, which is the updating and testing the organisational business continuity and IT disaster recovery plans. Just in the narrative there, it says that the plans have been drafted and they were due to be completed in June, and that a new timeline is to be established. So just wondering if you had or if an officer had a rough idea of what the new timeline would be.
Thank you. Yeah, firstly, I'll just comment that we're making really good progress on the disaster recovery project. We're well into that, so that's been good work from Shane and his team getting there. The business continuity plan is principally sitting with me, but it's just been so there's been some constraints for time. So I'm expecting that sort of in the first quarter of 2024. We're nearly there. We've still got all our COVID business continuity plans, and we've also got department level business continuity plans. So the idea with this and what the auditors are pushing towards is that corporate level, that overarching. So it's a case of just finalising, pulling all that information together. So yes, I'd say March 2024.
Councillor Sherry.
Thank you, Kevin, through you to Steve, that there are probably 3 items in that table reflecting IT issues, with statements like all in progress. There's 2 due dates for 147 and 144 as the end of December 23, but there's also one there at 140. The due date is been and gone, 31/12/22. Should that be 23? Just, am I right in assuming that? So possibly a little bit in line with what Councillor Gilmore is commenting on is are we actually going to land on these? Because those are 3 pretty big things that are in progress or not finished, and they all impact around our IT system. So be keen to see those closed out.
The disaster recovery plan, as I think we're making good progress there, and I expect that to be closed out reasonably soon. The process they're in at the moment with that is just confirming confirming their thoughts around the priority for recovery. So I think we're looking pretty good there. The removal of IT user access and the register for contractors has been a real challenging thing to get the technology right and the process within council right to make those things happen. But again, I think that recently we've made really good progress there, and I think Shane's sorry, the removal of IT access for users, I think we're there. We've got a solution in place, but it's a temporary solution based on SharePoint. So it's just really embedding that in and getting it finalised. In terms of the contractor register, I think you will have to talk to that, Raj. I thought that that was pretty close to being completed as well.
Through your chair, in some aspects, both 144 and 145, it's slightly related because it's mainly relating to contractors. Staff is quite straightforward in terms of granting access to staff, and when staff leave the organization, removal of access is quite straightforward. We have a defined process that's working really well. It is the contractors. I'll give you an example here. For example, when we have solutions team providing consenting process for building services, they have a pool of staff that at any time can access our system and jump in and do processing. And I think when auditors looked at that, they felt that we had generic access, or sometimes access is given to a solutions team member who for the last 8 months have not logged in, and they say that as part of your process, you should deactivate that access. But the way in which we set up with the solutions team is that we give them a pool of people who could access at any time who's assigned the task account. So this is where I think we're trying to see how we could manage the risk, at the same time ensure there's efficiency in the process. We don't want to clamp down and require solutions every time somebody comes in to ask for a request, because that just slows down the whole process. We're trying to, so that's what the IS team is trying to look for, solutions that manages the risk, at the same time ensures that the whole process is efficient as well. Stephen is right. In terms of external contractors, we now have a process in place. So we're going to have two-step process. Currently, the manual, want of a better word, the manual process is that every month, auditors, the IS team sends out an email to key managers to say that these are the contractors who have got access to the system. Do we want to extend the contract, the access? So it's a prompt for the managers to make decisions on a more periodic basis about the access that they have or the access that's expiring. So that's one. The second is they're trying to now bring in the contractor access to our system quite similar to the staff process. So there'll be a fair bit of robustness to the process, meaning that, for example, if I were to engage a consultant, I need to go through a process of applying to IT to grant access. And through that process, I would define the access and I'll define an expiry date. So once we have that process in place, and I think that will make sure that this whole process is being robust. Yeah.
Chair Kim, 145, just, you can probably count well, hopefully you can. Just in general, are they tracking down? It's nice what they're saying here about age of rate debtors.
Page 9, second.
That's 21.
Yes. Yep. To be my take on it is this should come off the audit recommendation. This is ongoing discussions we have with the auditors. The auditors raised this issue initially to say that they just wanted council to wrap around the process as how we are managing age debtors. And if you recall, in the quarterly report, Ellie sits in front of you and share with you her process and how she's managing. So to me, in terms of process-wise, I think we've got a process in place. But I think what we need to do is that the ongoing monitoring and making sure that we are keeping on track in terms of debtors, which I think Ellie has got a much more defined process in how she's doing it.
Tracking down, that was the question.
In the first quarter report, Councillor, I think we will provide an update as to how that's tracking compared to the previous financial year. Yeah, the last quarter report, the year-end report that Ellie did, we were tracking downwards. And reason why I'm putting a caveat is this year we've gone out with a higher rates increase. So we just want to make sure that the first quarter report would show the continuing trend of tracking down.
Thank you.
Just a comment from me, I think we've worked really hard over the years to try and get some of these off, but some likes of that one, even though we were actually trending down, doesn't come off. And they leave it, and the one above that carryover of capital projects has been on there for as long as I've been here, I think, and we'll never get it off because every council still has carryover capital. It's a matter of managing it. But it's also, I don't know how you get them to amend that or put it in as a new one, because it effectively says we haven't done anything since 2015, whereas in actual fact, we know that that's been happening. And I think at the moment with the COVID years, it's probably worse than what it's ever been. That's the reality of it. And the third one in that category is the Tararua Alliance, is to actually coming to an agreement with Audit as to what we're doing there without putting that on every time too. It's just a frustration of mine, but I raise it with them too, and it never seems to go anywhere. So. Tracy?
Thanks, Chair Kevin. Just a comment, I guess, that when I do meet with the auditors, perhaps those are some of the conversations I can have around achieving value. So I'll take it on board and have written some notes there to discuss those with them.
Does anybody else have any query on that one? No. So moving on to item 7. Councillor Peter, you had a query regarding the full.
Thanks, Kevin. Sorry, a public meeting, but is it possible to get some background to this or a description as to what was the issue? Item 7.3.
So I'd just like to first start by saying this is I'm wanting to bring any new fraud incidents to the attention of the committee, which fits well with the terms of reference for the committee. I just also want to say that both of the incidents that are in here have come from outside of council, so they're not internal fraud, and just confirm that they are recorded in our fraud register. So item 7.3. So this came to light for most councils around New Zealand when it was broken as a story for Taupo District Council in terms of this consulting firm being involved in providing fraudulent information for building consents. And it ended up, last time I looked at, that advice had been provided to 44 local authorities, and in some cases it was more than 1,000 pieces of advice, and council here has only been affected for one property, which, as I say, we're working with the parties involved around that.
So has that cost us any money?
Unless there's any other questions on that report.
There's just that recommendation is that the report of the risk and insurance advisor of the August management report be received and adopted. What do I think of that? It's all over. All those in favour say aye. Against, no, carried. Health and safety.
Been standing in as covering off the health and safety report for this quarter. Principally, that's because, as noted in item 3, the health and safety advisor role is still vacant. the report is read and if there's any questions.
Councillor Scott?
Thanks, Chair Kevin, and thanks for your report, Steve. I do have a few questions on the report, and I guess my first question, and this either may be to you or perhaps to the Chief Executive, whoever would like to answer it. I guess for me, one thing I'd like is an assurance that work health safety isn't being deprioritised. So I'd just like to have that assurance that we are absolutely going to be able to meet all of our WHS obligations, and I'll have some specific questions on that further as we go into the report, but also timelines for recruitment for a new safety officer. So
So we flood pages here. That's the Chief Executive.
I was just going to mention first that currently as well, so the thing that was put into place when Sandy went on to parental leave is that we have a arrangement with Impact. Health and safety consultants are available for us to use as required, and for example, they are supporting us with the transition transfer stations to in-house, and we also have the ability to call on Brent Anderson, who's still doing some casual work for us to cover there as well. That's my contribution, and also to say that the advertised role for health and safety coordinator is finishes 2nd of November.
Through you, Chair Kevin, I think Stephen's pretty much answered that well. It's not ideal. It's certainly not our preference in terms of how we would want to be operating it, but I think with the alternate sort of fill-ins certainly mitigate that risk. So we're pretty keen to get someone on board as soon as possible. We've had a couple of attempts at it, but unfortunately we haven't found anyone at this point, but we're hopeful that the market's starting to change and we'll start getting more applications for that role.
I think just to be clear, what you was asking too is there any downgrading of the approach to risk which is a key and a really good question to ask. So as far as I'm concerned, there's been no downgrading of our attempt to fill these positions and the priority of risk takes within the council.
Yeah, that's correct. But I sort of also want to highlight that as much as we can have in a consultant, and we've got Steve filling in, it's still not ideal. Else, you would argue why you just wouldn't keep this model going forward. And the reality is we do need someone here, and that the risk profile in terms of health and safety is compromised because of that. But we have got mitigations in place to reduce that risk. I think, and the reality is, the question is we're doing all we can under the current constraints of the market and other impacts of that. So, that's the reality of it, but it certainly hasn't dropped in terms of our priority and the emphasis we put on health and safety.
thanks, Chair Kevin, and thanks for clarifying what I was asking, because that really sort of did go down to the crux of it, and you've answered it well, and I definitely can see that we are doing all we can, and certainly have confidence in Steve and Steve's skills in jumping into that role. I guess what I just want to make sure from a governance perspective, that this council will be meeting its obligations as a PCBU, so that under the Act we are absolutely meeting all of our obligations. If there was a test of us making sure that we're doing our due diligence, actually going through and just as a note on the due diligence, that's at point number 6, talking about officer due diligence visits. We're 12 months into the council, we've had one. So we've had one of those so far. You know, I just want to make sure that that the most important is that our staff are protected. That's the absolute key for me. But then also that if something was to happen, we could hand on heart say that we've met our obligations as a PCBU.
Yeah, through you, Chair Kevin, absolutely. And I think the reason why I say that is that, you know, it's about everyone's responsibility in terms of health and safety. And we might have a coordinator that coordinates functions, but it doesn't take away individual responsibility as well to ensure that they're acting safely, and those around them to call out any poor behaviours or health and safety behaviours as well. And the Health and Safety Committee is still going ahead. So that is about the culture, and I'm pretty confident to say that we will meet those.
So just following up on that, you're not aware of any circumstances where health and safety have been compromised because of the position you're in? Perfect. More questions? Do you want to take us any further through with regards to? Oh,
Sorry, through you, Chair Kevin. Yeah, just that one in July. Was that announced or some public member giving us a crack? 26th of July, incident regulatory threatening aggressive behaviour. Was that in house or external?
So it wasn't in a council building, no, is that what you mean?
Yeah, was it one of our officers, one of our people, including anyone in this room? Was it referring to one of our team?
It was a member of the public behaving in a threatening and aggressive manner.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know, excuse me, I mean, it'd be good if we can tag it because we couldn't, because I know I'm getting this bit of aggro now. But I'm handling it.
Thanks, Chair Kevin. I just did on page 74 when we had the due diligence scheduled activities. The top one wanted to provide a more fuller update on that. Apologies, Mayor Tracy. I'm happy to yield to Mayor Tracy for that, but there's some governance training that will be coming. I've been working with Local Government New Zealand on some online training and that'll be available for all councils. I'm hoping to see the final draft of that today. But it potentially will be ready to launch next week by LGNZ. And the purpose of that will be helping us as governors understand what our due diligence and health and safety responsibilities are under the Act. So, I just wanted to provide that update.
Thanks, Chair Kevin, and thank you, Councillor Gilmore, for that. At the start of the term, we wanted the specific health and safety training. It is available by very few, and it is an incredible cost. So I had to talk to Local Government New Zealand around the Okwana program that they were running, and suggested that if that had that one module, that would be beneficial to all councillors, also to the community boards as well. So they agreed to look at that module, and with Councillor Gilmore's skills, we offered his assistance in forming that. So I really do want to thank him for that. When I was in Wellington on Friday, they are very excited about the module, and I'd like us to take part in that, maybe together as a team when that rolls out. So thank you very much for your work on that, but it certainly has been very cost effective for this council as well in that training. So I look forward to seeing it.
I was just wanting to follow up on Councillor Steve's comment about the aggressive and threatening behaviours. It does seem to be a trend that's affecting not only the staff, but anybody associated with it, unfortunately. And I think it's probably a generic community move into this direction, which is really unfortunate. But you see it at the national government level as well, unfortunately. So it's just something I think you've got to keep an eye on as best we can, and protect your staff as best you can as well, and keeping them up to date with any of those avoidance practices is the right thing to do.
Thanks, James. A couple of quick questions. I don't know whether you can answer them, Steve, or through you to Brian, but the job description, given the challenges you're having with recruitment, have you modified the jobs? I see nods. And which way has it been modified? I mean, we're talking about ensuring that we don't drop the ball. So in what aspects has that modification taken place to?
Thank you. Yes, there has been a modification of the job description. The review started because the first two rounds of recruiting, we were looking for a health and safety advisor with significant experience, and qualifications, and then experience including at a governance level, working with governance. And we found that there weren't any applicants that would meet those criteria. So we reviewed what we're wanting the health and safety advisor to do, and we've landed on a health and safety coordinator role. I think during his time, Brent did a lot of work in terms of the strategic direction and the framework for health and safety within council. And what we're really looking for is for somebody to be out driving that culture and getting the work done. And so that was the rationale behind changing the position description to a sort of a more, driving the culture within council, making sure that the processes and systems that we've got in place are well embedded. So thanks.
So supplementary to that, and it's a nice little segue into my second question, reflecting on the embedding of health and safety culture within this organisation. I think there's been a recent staff survey. We do those fairly regularly, and were there any issues identified through that would reflect on the embedding of that attitude and culture within the organisation? Because that normally gets reported through this committee at some stage, doesn't it? The results of the staff survey. No, I've seen them before. Okay.
Yeah, we've completed, the staff survey results are out. We're just working through some of that at the moment. One thing I can say in terms of health and safety, it hasn't raised any health and safety concerns through that survey. In terms of presenting that, I think by memory I do present that through my chief executive only time, and I'll provide an update. Won't be today, but it will be coming up in a future meeting.
It was more about the culture and how staff were.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just, I know in June, we had a spike in threatening behaviour. Was there any commonality in that behaviour, in the location, in the team? Are there any insights that need addressing there? Because that is a big spike.
There's probably two things here. One is we're really encouraging staff to report behaviour, and I think it's that thing that you see more when you ask for people to do these things, and I think we're seeing the result of that. But it also could equally mean that we are having incidents as well. So so there is a trend, I think, of more reporting. In terms of the analysis, that's been flagged as a priority for when we get the health and safety resource in place. It was discussed at the last health and safety committee meeting as well. The staff committee is something that they wanted to see action, so that's definitely on the list to do. one thing that's also happened since I wrote the report is that we're working we're working on a policy around a more systematic and process-driven approach to dealing with challenging customers or unreasonable behaviour, so that we get some consistency in how we do that, and we have an escalating to make sure that we can limit interactions with staff where there are safety concerns. Yeah, so that is underway. That's happened since this report, and it's coming out of the reporting that we're seeing from staff.
Yeah, just referring to that, I had a live act of that when I walked into the chamber, into the main area, and there was a chap there going off at Harry, and he said, "Well, you can go back to the country you come from," and he's giving the girl, this is a quote, I don't mind it being public either, and then they had a crack at the girls, and then I said, "Hoi," and I said, "I know where you live, I'll come round and see you." So I did, right, and we handled it in-house, well, in his house, I should say, not in-house. But yeah, it was appalling, and maybe, you know, that was only 4 weeks ago, you know, but it just happened to walk in at the time. And I don't know, do the girls give you a good survey of what happens on that front desk? I know it's all on camera, but yeah, that was just outside the square. It just, but I did deal with it, but yeah.
Everybody dealing with it has to stay safe too, Councillor Steve. Just, it's never easy to deal with, unfortunately, and it does seem to be getting more aggressive from what I hear as well. But it's not only in local government, it's across the board. It's a societal thing. Councillor Sharon?
Just a quick question through you, Chair Kevin, on that very matter. Is there a program for de-escalation training for that? Perfect.
Yeah, so de-escalation training is provided for all of our front-facing staff.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No? So the recommendation is on page 73, the report of the list and assurance advisor concerning health and safety is circulated, be received. And mover, Councillor Scott, seconded Councillor Sharon. All those in favour say aye. Against, no carried. I think that brings us to the closure. So just before I do sign off, I just want to say it's been a real privilege. It's my last meeting with you guys. So always nice to come over to my homeland, I think. And I've really enjoyed it, to be fair. I think you're a good bunch of political people that are upfront and say your piece and are never afraid to ask questions, which I really enjoy and encourage. And I think you've been really lucky with the staff you've got too. You know, there's a really good core of the people that I deal with. And thanks, Brian, for I guess I'll see you for a short term anyway, but I appreciate the open way that you responded, and Raj, and particularly Sandy and her last role has been really open in dealing with any questions that I've had. So I really appreciate that. And Ellie for looking after us. I know I need a bit of nursemaiding at the time. Suffered from having a PA for a long period of time. I think I had to look after myself. My wife looks after me home, and I always had someone to look after me at work. So, but I've appreciated the friendships that have developed, and really, if I reflect on the time here, it's the open and honesty around the table, and it's been a pleasure working with you. So thanks for that, and with that, we can sign off and turn off.
Just very quickly, if I could, before you do, thank you very much. You have been with us since the inception of the audit committee, and you've helped us grow, and internally with the staff, we've all appreciated that, and also your availability. Like if there was anything at all that we needed to flag, and you've certainly stepped in and been part of infrastructure meetings, and where you needed with the impounded supply. Your service to us has been greatly appreciated, and we've certainly grown. But I would just like you to leave you with a parting gift on behalf of us all. Thank you, just so that you don't ever forget the tower.
I'd like to see our future with no problems, but I don't think it's. Because I think it's a really challenging time with everybody that's involved in local government at the moment. And maybe over the next 2 or 3 years, we push forward into something that's a bit more positive than dealing with the amount that's on the table at the moment. But thanks very much for that. Appreciate it. It was huge. Thank you.